In this edition of Back in History, we present the profile of His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, the 14th President of the Republic of Ghana. Ghana is one of the highly regarded countries in West Africa. John had earlier served as the 12th President of the country. In Back in History, we take you back in time to the events that took place in the historical past and also discuss the profiles of sons and daughters of Africa who have distinguished themselves in their chosen endeavors. President John Mahama is one of such distinguished sons of Africa by every reasonable assessment. Welcome to this edition of Back in History. John was born on 29th November 1958. He was born in Damongo, an area in present-day West Gonja district of the northern region of Ghana. When the young John Mahama came of age for enrollment in elementary school, he was enrolled at the famous Achimota Primary School. Done with his primary education, he proceeded to Ghana Secondary School in Tamale for his secondary education. He graduated with flying colors and then proceeded to the University of Ghana, Legon, where he studied for a degree in history. In 1986, he earned a diploma in communication studies from the same university. John also studied at the Institute of Sciences in Moscow, Russia, which at the time was the capital of the Soviet Union. Here, John specialized in psychology. He went a step further, and in 1988 he obtained a postgraduate degree before returning to his home country of Ghana. Upon his return from Moscow, John was employed as the Information, Culture and Research Officer at the Embassy of Japan in Accra, Ghana. He worked here for 6 years, namely from 1991 to 1995. From the Embassy of Japan, he moved to the Anti-Poverty Non-Governmental Organization Plan International, Ghana Country Office. Here he worked as Manager, International Relations, Sponsorship Communications and Grants. He worked here from 1995 to 1996. While working in these institutions, John Mahama kept tabs with local politics in his home region and in the national politics of Ghana. In 1996, he contested election to represent the Bolebamboi constituency in the Parliament of Ghana. He received overwhelming vote from his people and emerged victorious at the polls. He was issued with the certificate of return and sworn in as Member of Parliament. John was not a hidden face in Parliament. He made useful contributions on the floor of Parliament and also at executive sessions. His contributions were significant and well appreciated. In April 1997, Congressman John Mahama was appointed as Deputy Minister of Communications. This was during the presidency of John Jerry Rawlings. John Mahama, he is a good communicator, and his appointment in this regard was applauded by many. Aside being a good communicator naturally, John Mahama had also garnered educational certifications in communication. He performed creditably in the office of Deputy Minister for Communication to the admiration of many. In November 1998, he was promoted to the office of Substantive Minister of Communications. This was another milestone in John Mahama's career in public service. He served in this office from 1998 to 2001. It is important to mention that John had become very popular and acceptable to his people during his first 4-year term in Parliament, and his performance and wide acceptability won him a second 4-year term as the elected representative of his constituency. John did well in his second term, and this won him a third term in Parliament. This was an unprecedented feat in many aspects. By this time, the name John Dramani Mahama had become a household name in his constituency and in the whole of Ghana. His occupation of the office of Minister of Communication made John Mahama even more popular in Ghana. He doubled as the chairman of Ghana's National Communications Authority. In 2002, John was appointed as the Director of Communications in his political party, the National Democratic Congress, the NDC. Between 2001 to 2004, John Mahama served as the minority parliamentary spokesperson for communications. John has been in communication circles all his life. As Member of Parliament, John Mahama also served as member of critical standing committees of Parliament such as Energy, Science and Technology, Transport, and Industry. In 2003, John Mahama became a member of the Pan-African Parliament, serving as chairperson of the West African Caucus. In January 2009, John Mahama had a major breakthrough in politics when he was sworn in as the Vice President of Ghana with Professor Jonathan Mills as President. He did his work creditably and worked closely to assist President Mills. In 2012, the unexpected occurred. President Jonathan Mills died in office. He did not complete his term. By the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, the Vice President shall take over the reins of office in the unfortunate event of the demise of the President. Vice President John Mahama was thus sworn in on the 24th day of July 2012 as the substantive President of Ghana. Upon being sworn in, John addressed the Ghanaian Parliament, and in his speech he stated inter alia as follows, quote, "This is the saddest day in our nation's history. Tears have engulfed our nation and we are deeply saddened and distraught, and I am personally devastated. I have lost a father, I have lost a friend, I have lost a mentor, a senior comrade. Ghana is united in grief at this time for our departed president, Professor John Atta Mills." End of quote. President John Mahama went about the activities of his office to the best of his ability, and his strides in office were admired by many. Towards the end of Professor John Atta Mills' 4-year tenure, the tenure which at this point was run by President John Mahama, the NDC convened a special National Delegates Convention on the 30th of August 2012 and endorsed President John Mahama as the party's candidate for the 2012 presidential election. Mahama went on to contest the election and emerged victorious, having polled 50.7% of the total valid votes cast, defeating his closest rival, Nana Akufo-Addo of the New Patriotic Party, who polled a total of 47.74% of valid votes cast. On 7th January 2013, John was sworn in to begin his own 4-year term as President of Ghana. The venue of the swearing-in was the historic Black Star Square in Accra, Ghana. Several persons were in attendance, including 13 heads of states within and outside Africa. Mahama had a remarkable 4-year full term and presented himself for re-election at the December 2016 general election. He was qualified for a second full term since he ascended the presidency with only 6 months remaining in Professor Mills' term. He contested the election but lost to Nana Akufo-Addo. Mahama polled a total of 44.4% of the total votes cast, while Nana Akufo-Addo polled 53.5% of the votes cast to emerge as winner at the election. 4 years after, John Mahama made another attempt at the presidency as candidate of the NDC to contest against the incumbent president Nana Akufo-Addo, but he again lost to him. John Mahama was unrelenting. He kept his eyes on the ball, and for him, one of his greatest desires was to win election to serve a second term as president of his country, Ghana. John Mahama contested the election in December 2024 with Vice President Baumia of the NPP as the major contender. On 8 December 2024, while the polls were yet to close, Vice President Baumia called candidate John Mahama and congratulated him as the winner of the election. At the close of polls, John Mahama was officially announced as the winner of the election. By this announcement, John Mahama effectively secured a second term to serve as President of the Republic of Ghana. On 7th January 2025, John Mahama was sworn in for a second 4-year term as President of Ghana. In his inaugural speech, President John Mahama stated thus inter alia, quote, "Our Father, who art in heaven, thank you for giving me this day, a day that offers me, your humble servant, a unique opportunity to reset Ghana. 30 years ago, on January 7th, Ghana made its first and most successful democratic transition, a reset. With the swearing in of the newly democratically elected president, Jerry John Rawlings of blessed memory, our nation was returned to a multi-party democracy, a new constitution went into effect, and the Fourth Republic of Ghana was officially established. I refer to it as a reset because on that day in 1993, we made our fourth attempt at establishing a democratic system of governance with term limits based on free, fair, and transparent elections. The handover of power on January 7, 2001 between former President John Jerry Rawlings and the newly elected President John Agyekum Kufuor tested that reset. Our nation passed with flying colors. So today, with my induction as the new President of the Republic of Ghana, history is being made again. It is history worth repeating every 4 years with each newly elected government. Today, we're also making a different kind of history, one that speaks of our maturity as a democracy, a nation of citizens enfranchised with the authority to determine their political future at the polls. Today's exercise between the outgoing president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and I feel a bit like deja vu. 8 years ago, on January 7th, 2017, we shared this space and performed this transitional exercise. I was the outgoing president, having served only one term, and he was the incoming president, having been given the mandate by the people to lead this great nation. He and I both understood on that day, as I am sure we do today, that it is the people of Ghana we serve. It seems fitting that I share this stage and this unique historical distinction with Nana Akufo-Addo twice. Nana and I began our national political careers in Parliament in the same year, 1996. He has always greeted me with warmth, a firm handshake, and a smile. He is perhaps the only person in my life who has persistently chosen to call me Johnny. While we belonged to opposing political parties, we shared a sense of mutual respect. In those early days, we probably could not have imagined that destiny would bring us to the leadership of our respective parties and that we would have to face off 3 separate times as we each vied for the highest office in the land. End of quotes. President John Mahama went on with his speech and made profound statements on his mission to reset Ghana and place it on the path of growth and development. Done with his speech, President Mahama resumed his seat amidst a thunderous applause from the mammoth crowd that witnessed his inauguration. The creme de la creme of politics in Africa and the world were in attendance, while others were glued to their television sets at home across the world. President John Mahama is married to Lordina John Mahama, and together they have 5 children, namely Farida, Jesse, Shafiq, Shahid, and Sharaf. President John Mahama is a Christian of the Assemblies of God denomination. He is well respected across the country of Ghana and across the continent of Africa and across the world. Thanks for watching this edition of Back in History, and do remember to subscribe to the channel or follow the page for regular notification on every new video. I am your friend and host Dim, wishing you the best of time in all you do and thanking you for continually accompanying me on this mission for the discovery, documentation, and preservation of the rich historical narratives of the continent of Africa.